Her mate cheated, so she let a stranger mark her. He turned out to be the Alpha King. The moon of Ashgar Vale rose slow and red, as if it already knew what would be lost that night. Alira stood at the edge of the high balcony, her hands resting on cold stone, her breath soft and uneven. Below her, the pack gathered in celebration. Fires burned bright, music carried on the wind, laughter echoed through the ancient halls of the stronghold. Tonight was meant to be a night of unity. Tonight was meant to honor the bond. She pressed her palm to the faint silver mark near her collarbone, the sign of a destined mate. It had appeared years ago, glowing softly the night fate bound her to Darien, the future alpha of her pack. Once, that mark had filled her with warmth. Now it burned. Alira had not meant to learn the truth this way. Fate had been cruel enough to make her walk past the eastern corridor at the wrong moment. The voices had reached her first, low, close, intimate. Darien's voice, not meant for her. She had stopped before the door, confusion tightening her chest. She had heard another woman laugh softly, her tone familiar. A high-ranking she-wolf, someone Alira trusted, someone wearing Darien's scent. Alira had not opened the door. She did not need to. The bond answered for her. Pain spread through her chest, sharp and sudden like ice cracking through glass. The silver mark dulled, its glow fading as if ashamed. A bond broken not by death, but by choice. Now, hours later, the celebration below mocked her silence. The pack believed their future alpha stood strong. They did not see the truth breaking quietly above them. Alira turned away from the balcony. She did not cry. Not yet. In Ashgar Vale, a mate rejected was worse than a mate lost. It meant weakness. It meant whispers. It meant being looked at with pity or worse, blame. She straightened her back and left the hall without being seen. The forest welcomed her with dark branches and cold wind. Alira moved fast, her boots silent on familiar paths. But instead of turning toward the safe grounds, she crossed the old stone markers, into the forbidden wilds. No wolf went there after dark. The land beyond belonged to ancient magic, untouched since the first kings ruled under the stars. But Alira did not care. Her bond was broken, her future stolen. What more could the dark take from her? The deeper she went, the quieter the world became. Even the insects seemed to hold their breath. The moonlight shifted, turning pale and sharp. Shadows stretched longer than they should. Her chest tightened again, not from the bond, but from something else. A pull, she stopped. Ahead between twisted trees someone stood. A man. He leaned against a stone, tall and still, his presence heavy in the air. His cloak was dark, torn at the edge, and his long hair fell loose around his shoulders. Moonlight caught the sharp line of his face and the strange glow of his eyes. Gold, not the gold of fire, the gold of command. Alira's instincts screamed at her to run, but she did not. The man looked wounded. Blood darkened the side of his coat, yet he stood like someone unused to falling. "Go back," he said calmly. His voice was deep, steady, carrying authority without effort. Alira lifted her chin. "This land does not belong to you." A faint smile touched his mouth. "Nor to you." Silence stretched between them. The pull in her chest grew stronger, answering something ancient in him. Alira frowned. Her bond should have been quiet now, empty, yet something stirred. "You are hurt," she said finally. He glanced down at the blood as if noticing it for the first time. "It will heal." She should have left, she knew that. Instead, she stepped closer. The forest seemed to lean inward, watching. "You should not be here alone," he said, "especially tonight." Alira laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. "Tonight I have nowhere else to be." For the first time, his gaze sharpened. He saw her then not as a stranger, but as something fractured. "A broken bond," he said quietly. Her breath caught. "How do you?" "The land speaks," he replied, "and so do wounds." She looked away, anger rising. "Then you know nothing of it." He studied her for a long moment. "I know betrayal leaves scars deeper than claws." That was when the tears came, not loud, not dramatic. Just a single tear slipping down her cheek. Elira wiped it away at once, embarrassed. "I did not come here for comfort." "Good," he said. "I do not offer lies." Something about his honesty steadied her. The moon shifted higher, turning darker, red bleeding into silver. The blood moon, ancient magic stirred. The man straightened, his jaw tightening. "This night is dangerous." "So is staying," Elira said. He stepped closer without thinking. The air thickened between them. Power pressed softly against her skin, not crushing but undeniable. "What do you want?" he asked. The question surprised her. What did she want? Not revenge, not comfort. She wanted to feel whole again. "I want the bond to stop hurting," she whispered. The man's expression darkened. "There are rights," he said slowly. "Old ones meant to protect, not to bind." "Will it erase him?" she asked. "No," he said, "but it will remind the world that you are not unclaimed." Elira hesitated. This was madness, trusting a stranger, trusting ancient magic, but fate had already failed her once. "Do it," she said. He reached out, then paused. "Once done, it cannot be undone easily." She met his eyes. "Neither can betrayal." The forest held its breath. He placed his hand over her collarbone, not touching skin, but close enough that warmth spread through her. Gold light flickered between them, soft and controlled. He spoke words older than the packs, older than crowns. The mark formed slowly, different from her first bond. Not silver, not glowing bright, but deep, steady, alive. A mark of protection, a mark of choice. Power settled around her, warm instead of painful. The ache in her chest eased for the first time since the corridor door. Elira gasped softly. The man pulled back at once, as if burned. "What did you do?" she asked. "What the land allowed," he replied, his voice low. "More than it should have." She looked down. The mark pulsed once, then faded beneath her skin. Before she could speak again, distant horns echoed through the forest. "Searchers," she stepped back. "They will find me." "You must go," he said. She nodded, turning away. Then she stopped. "Who are you?" For a moment he looked almost amused. "A stranger," he said. "Nothing more." Elira left without another word. She did not see him sink to one knee after she disappeared among the trees. She did not hear his whisper to the dark. "After centuries," he said softly, "the bond chooses again." The moon flared bright. Far away in the heart of Ashgar Vale, ancient runes awakened, and the Alpha King opened his eyes. The next morning, Ashgar Vale stirred with a restless energy. The wind carried whispers of a stranger seen near the forbidden forest. Rumors traveled fast among the pack, as if the trees themselves had spread the news. Elira moved carefully through the halls of her pack's keep, pretending nothing had changed. Yet inside, she felt a storm. Every glance, every gesture reminded her of what had been broken. Darian, her former mate, acted as if nothing had happened. His confident smile, the easy charm he carried, now felt like a blade against her chest. She avoided him as much as she could. She focused on her duties as a Luna, the guide of the young wolves, the voice for those who had no courage to speak. But even her work felt hollow. Her heart had not forgiven, nor had her mind. Then the summons arrived. A royal messenger entered the great hall, robes embroidered with the sigils of old. He bowed low before the council and addressed them in a voice that carried across the stone walls. "By decree of the Alpha King of all realms, a visitation is required. His presence shall be at the great hall within 3 days." Murmurs rose immediately. The Alpha King of all realms had not been seen for decades. Legends spoke of him as a shadowed figure, ruthless, cunning, and feared even by the oldest wolves. Some said he had been cursed, others claimed he ruled over all lands unseen. Elira's chest tightened. She had seen a stranger in the forest the night before. The way he moved, the way he had spoken, could it be him? Her hands trembled slightly as she traced the faint golden mark on her collarbone, the one he had placed, a mark that felt alive. The day of the Alpha King's arrival came with a storm. Rain fell in cold sheets, and thunder rolled across the mountains. The great gates opened and the king entered. Elira froze. It was the stranger, But he was not a stranger anymore. He was regal, tall, and terrifying in his presence. His cloak was dark, embroidered with gold that glimmered even under the storm. His eyes, the golden eyes she had seen in the forest, scanned the hall with a quiet command. Every warrior, elder, and pack member bowed instinctively, some trembling. He stopped his gaze on her. Time slowed. The storm outside seemed to echo the storm inside her. He did not speak, did not move further into the hall. He merely looked, and in that look she felt something she had never felt before: power, danger, and a strange familiarity. The council whispered, but she could not hear them. Only the pull in her chest mattered. The mark burned faintly again, reminding her of the night in the forest. Darien stepped forward, trying to appear confident. "Your Majesty," he said, voice steady but edged with fear he could not hide. The Alpha King's eyes moved from Darien to her. "Is this the one?" he asked softly, almost to himself. Elira's heart stuttered. The world seemed to narrow until only the two of them existed in the hall. I am Luna Elira," she managed to say. "Luna Elira," he repeated. The words rolled off his tongue as if tasting them for the first time. His gaze softened for a moment, but only slightly. Then it hardened again. "The one marked under the blood moon," he added. A shiver ran down her spine. The mark he knew. The council murmured louder now, sensing tension between the king and the young Luna. Elira's anger rose. "It was not meant for you," she said sharply, more to herself than anyone else. "It was for protection, nothing more." The Alpha King's gaze never wavered. He moved forward, slow and deliberate, stopping only a few paces away. "Protection?" he asked, voice low but echoing in the hall. "Or fate?" Her hands clenched at her sides. She wanted to scream at him, to demand answers, but she could not. There was something about him that made her heart ache with longing and fear at the same time. Darien stepped closer, trying to assert himself. "You are not." The king's eyes cut him down with a single glance. "Silence," he said. The word alone silenced every wolf in the hall. Darien froze. Elira's blood ran cold and hot at the same time. The king turned fully to her. "The mark reacts to me," he said softly, almost like a confession. "It calls to me." Her chest tightened. She had felt it too. The pull in her heart, the warmth in her chest, and the strange strength that had appeared the moment he had placed the mark. "Why?" she whispered. "Because the bond chooses," he said. "Not the past, not the lies, but what is true." Elira felt a surge of emotions: fear, confusion, anger, longing. She did not understand what he meant. How could a bond choose now after she had already been betrayed? The Alpha King's attention shifted slightly, scanning the hall. "The Luna shall remain under my protection," he declared. The words echoed against stone walls, silencing the council completely. Elira's stomach dropped. "Protection? From what?" The king's gaze returned to her. "From those who wish to harm her," he said, deliberately vague. "And from those who fail to understand the weight of a bond." Darien's face paled. "You cannot. She is mine by pack law." The king's voice sharpened, cold and terrifying. "By law or by illusion?" Elira's mind reeled. She had never seen the Alpha King angry, not like this. The hall trembled under the weight of his power. The very air seemed to tighten around them. For the first time, Elira noticed the subtle energy around him, an aura of strength and danger that made the hair on her arms stand on end. The mark on her chest burned again, warm and alive. She realized then that she was not afraid, not completely, not of him. Instead, she felt drawn to him. Darien stuttered something about tradition, about bond laws, but the king's gaze silenced him immediately. Even the council members, long accustomed to fear, did not dare speak. The Alpha King turned, facing them all. "The Luna shall travel with me, and those who oppose this shall answer to me directly." Shock spread across the hall. Elira's heart raced. She did not understand fully what this meant. Did she have a choice? Before she could react, Kael'Rose, the king, stepped closer to her, his presence impossible to ignore. He lowered his voice so only she could hear. "Do not mistake my silence for weakness." Elira swallowed. Her voice trembled. I do not understand. You will, he said, soon enough. The council protested, the pack murmured, and Darian's face burned with fury, but Alira's attention was fixed on him. The man she had trusted, the stranger she had allowed to mark her, the king who now claimed her under his protection. The storm outside intensified, thunder shaking the walls. Lightning illuminated the hall in harsh white flashes, and for a moment the gold of his eyes seemed to glow brighter than the lightning itself. Alira felt the pull again, stronger this time. The mark on her chest pulsed under her skin. The magic of that night, the bond that should not have been, whispered through her veins. Kael'rose inclined his head slightly. "Come with me," he said, his voice now soft but firm. "Or remain here and watch your world fall apart." The choice was not really a choice. Her feet moved before her mind could decide. She followed him, leaving behind the hall, the council, and the chaos of her former life. Outside, the storm had not lessened. Rain fell cold and heavy, yet when Kael'rose stepped into the courtyard, the wind seemed to bend around him. He moved with the ease of one who commanded not only the pack but the land itself. Alira ran to keep up, her cloak clinging to her body. Her heart pounded, but not just from the storm. It was from him, from the bond, from something she could not name. They reached the edge of the forbidden forest. Here, where trees twisted unnaturally and shadows hid ancient secrets, Kael'rose stopped. "This is where your journey truly begins," he said. Alira looked at him, eyes wide. "Why me?" He looked at her for a long moment, eyes unreadable. Then he said simply, "Because the bond chose you, not him, not anyone else. You." Alira felt a shiver run through her body. She did not know whether to fear him or trust him. The mark burned warmly again, as if agreeing. She swallowed and nodded. "Then I will follow." The king inclined his head once, almost approvingly. "Good," he said, "because the world we face will not wait, and neither will destiny." As they stepped into the forest together, the trees seemed to shift, opening a path no one else could see. And in that path, the first shadow moved, a shadow that knew them both and whispered of dangers to come. The palace of Ashgar Vale rose from the mountain mist like a monument of forgotten kings. Its walls were carved with silver runes that hummed faintly with magic, and the air smelled of ancient stone, incense, and secrets. Alira walked behind Kael'rose through the high archways, her heart pounding, her mind a whirl of fear and curiosity. She had followed him willingly into this world of power, but every step made her aware of how fragile she was in it. The mark on her chest pulsed softly, as if reminding her that she belonged to him now, not by law, but by something older, something stronger. The guards bowed as they passed. Even the fiercest warriors lowered their heads, sensing the presence of the Alpha King. Yet Kael'rose moved without arrogance. He walked as if the palace itself had grown around him, as if he and this place were one. Alira's eyes wandered over the throne room, its tall ceilings painted with murals of battles, kings, and celestial wolves. She had never seen such a place, not even in the stories the elders told her, but her attention kept returning to Kael'rose. He had changed from the stranger she had met in the forest. He was more than a king. He was danger wrapped in quiet control, a storm contained in golden eyes. He led her to a chamber high in the palace, overlooking the valley below. Candles flickered, casting shadows across the walls. The room smelled faintly of cedar and something she could not name, something old and powerful. "Sit," he said, pointing to a chair near the window. Alira hesitated. Every instinct screamed caution, yet she obeyed. She lowered herself onto the edge of the chair, the mark on her chest throbbing faintly. Kael'rose paced slowly. "You do not understand the life you have entered," he said, his voice low, careful, almost sad. "I do not understand much," she admitted. "Except that I trusted a stranger and now I am here." He stopped pacing, his gaze on her. "That stranger is not who you think. I am not simply a king. I am bound by a curse, one that touches every mate I claim." Alira's heart skipped. A curse, Kael'Rose nodded. Long ago, a spell was placed upon my bloodline. Any mate I take without consent, without true choice, suffers. Their spirit breaks. Alira's hands tightened in her lap. Then, why mark me? He stepped closer, golden eyes softening briefly. Because you were already broken. Because fate chose you and not the one who betrayed you. You have strength I have not seen in decades. That is why the bond could form without harm. Alira felt a mixture of relief and fear. The night in the forest, the warmth of the market was more than protection. It was a test, and somehow she had passed. Kael'Rose leaned against the window frame looking down at the valley. But the curse still watches. It will try to claim you if the bond falters, if you doubt yourself, if you doubt me. I will not doubt, she whispered, though her own uncertainty trembled beneath the words. He turned sharply as if hearing doubt she had not spoken. You must understand, he said, voice edged with steel. This world is not safe. The pack you left behind, rivals, enemies, they all sense the change. They see the bond, and they will move to destroy it before it can strengthen. Alira shivered. Why would they do that? Because power frightens them, he said simply. Because change terrifies them. And because some are weak enough to try and claim what they cannot take. The warning hung heavy in the air. Alira understood now why Kael'Rose had been so careful the night he marked her. The forest had been dangerous, yes, but it had been safer than the palace. For hours they spoke quietly, Kael'Rose teaching her the rules of the court, the dangers that lurked in shadows and the old magic that still hummed beneath the palace stones. She listened, absorbing everything. Yet the longer they spoke, the more she noticed the tension in him. There was a heaviness behind his golden eyes, a shadow that never left. She wanted to ask him about it, to touch it, but she feared the answer. Her instincts screamed a warning when the council arrived. They had come unexpectedly, faces painted with suspicion and unease. Your Majesty, the council leader began, bowing low. We must discuss the Luna. She is not from this realm. How can we trust her? Kael'Rose's hand rested lightly on the hilt of his sword, though he did not draw it. She is not a subject, he said. She is bound to me by choice. By fate, she will remain here until I say otherwise. Whispers filled the room. Darian had somehow arrived too, his expression twisted with anger and disbelief. He stepped forward. This is absurd. She belongs to the pack, not you. Kael'Rose's gaze cut him down. The pack lost her when they failed to honor the bond. She chooses her own path now. Alira's breath caught. No one had ever defended her like that. No one had ever given her the choice to claim her own strength. The council murmured, but Kael'Rose's authority was absolute. They had no words to oppose him. After the meeting, the palace emptied, leaving Kael'Rose and Alira alone again. She leaned against the window, watching rain smear the valley below. You see, he said quietly, approaching her, those who are weak will try to control. Those who are strong must survive the choices they are given. Alira looked up. And those who are cursed, he hesitated. For the first time she saw doubt flicker in his eyes. We survive, he said, because we have to, because some bonds are stronger than curses. The words echoed in her chest, stronger than betrayal, stronger than doubt, stronger than fear. But the palace did not sleep quietly that night. Shadows moved where no one walked. Eyes watched from high windows. Messages slipped through corridors. Whispers of the Alpha King's new Luna spread like wildfire, reaching ears that were not loyal. And in the heart of the palace, a force older than Kael'Rose stirred. Alira felt it first in the mark on her chest. It pulsed, hot and urgent, as if warning her. Kael'Rose sensed it too, stepping close, his hand hovering near her shoulder, not touching but close enough to shield. Something approaches, he said, his voice low, golden eyes scanning the darkness outside the window. Before she could ask what he meant, a shadow struck through the candlelight, a figure cloaked in black, moving faster than thought. The palace erupted in chaos. Guards shouted, swords clanged against stone, and the shadow vanished before it could be caught. Alira clutched the edge of the window. Her chest burned, not with fear, but with the thrill of danger, and something more she could not name. Rose's hand finally touched her shoulder. The warmth of it sent a shiver through her, but it was his steadiness, his certainty that held her. "The curse," he said, voice dark. "It watches, it tests, and now the enemies of the bond have moved." Alira's eyes widened. "Enemies?" he nodded. "Those who wish to break you, to claim what should not be taken. They will not stop until they succeed. And neither can we unless we fight together." Her heart pounded. She was afraid, yes, but she also felt a strange fire inside her, the fire of strength. The fire of a bond chosen, not stolen. Rose looked down at her, eyes golden and unreadable. "Do you trust me?" Alira met his gaze, feeling the pull in her chest, the warmth of the mark. "I will try," she said. He nodded once firmly. "That is enough for now." They turned back to the window, watching the rain and the shifting shadows. The palace hummed around them, alive with old magic and new dangers. And in the deepest corner of the castle, a pair of eyes glowed faintly in the dark. The shadow that had struck before was not gone. It had been sent deliberately, and it was patient. It was waiting. The first light of dawn barely reached the peaks of Ashgar Vale. Mist curled around the palace towers, softening the edges of stone and shadow. But inside the walls, the air was tense, alive with danger. Alira stood at the top of the grand stairway, watching the courtyard below. The palace guards had doubled their watch, and every corridor echoed with cautious footsteps. She touched the mark on her chest, warm and steady now. It no longer throbbed with warning, but hummed with quiet strength. Rose approached her silently, his cloak brushing the stone floor. Even in the dim morning light, his golden eyes shone with purpose. He placed a hand lightly on her shoulder. "Are you ready?" he asked. Alira met his gaze. She had come far in a few days, from betrayal and heartbreak to a place of strength and courage. "I am," she said. "Whatever comes, I will face it." He nodded almost approvingly. "Good, because they are already here." Outside the palace walls, the shadow that had struck the night before moved again. It was no ordinary enemy. It was a wolf of old magic, twisted by envy and hatred, sent to test the bond between the Luna and the Alpha King. Alira's chest tightened, not from fear, but anticipation. The first time she had been marked, it had been to protect. Now the bond pulsed with power, and she felt it reach into her very bones. She was no longer fragile. She was a part of something greater. Rose led her to the balcony overlooking the courtyard. Below, the enemy approached, a wolf with eyes like embers, moving faster than thought. Guards readied their weapons, but Rose raised a hand. "Not yet," he said. "Let the bond guide us." Alira's eyes widened. The mark glowed softly, golden light spreading across her collarbone. She could feel it not just on her skin, but in her heart. She understood now. This bond was stronger than fear, stronger than curses, stronger than enemies. The wolf leapt forward, a shadow among shadows, but Alira did not step back. She stepped forward, hand brushing the mark. Light flared from it, spilling across the balcony and down into the courtyard. The enemy faltered, its steps hesitant. The power of the bond, of a choice freely made, pushed against the darkness. Rose moved next to her, hand hovering close but not touching. The mark responded to him too, brightening. "Together," he said softly. Alira nodded. They had learned together in the palace halls, in whispers and in silence. Together they faced this threat. The shadow lunged, faster than thought, but the bond flared between them. Golden light wrapped the courtyard, surrounding the enemy. It howled, a sound of rage and frustration as the light pressed closer. Alira felt the strength of her own heart, her own choice flowing through her. She stepped forward, voice steady. "This ends now." The mark blazed brightly. The shadow shrieked and then dissolved into nothingness, leaving only the whisper of wind behind. Guards stared in disbelief. Even Rose's eyes shone brighter than usual, but he did not speak. He simply watched her, a small smile brushing his lips. You did that," he said finally. Alira's chest rose and fell. "We did that," she corrected. "The bond, not me alone." He studied her for a moment, the golden light of the mark fading to a soft glow. Then he reached out, placing his hand gently on hers. A warmth spread through her body, stronger than the first night in the forest. "You are stronger than I imagined," he said quietly. "And now the curse cannot touch you, not while the bond is whole." Alira smiled, a mixture of relief and pride. "Then we are free," Rose nodded. "Free to choose, free to stand together, free to face the world not as ruler and Luna but as partners." The storm outside had cleared. Sunlight broke through the clouds, reflecting off the palace walls. The world felt new, fresh, possible. But there was one more shadow left, the one that had haunted her heart before the stranger, before the mark. Darian. He stepped into the courtyard, anger and disbelief painted across his face. "You cannot," he began. Rose stepped forward, eyes blazing. "She is no longer yours to claim, not by law, not by choice, not by fate." Alira lifted her chin, feeling the full strength of the bond in her chest. The golden light of the mark pulsed softly, steady, unyielding. "I am no one's prize," she said. "I am my own, and I choose him." Darian faltered, realizing that the bond was more than magic. It was choice, power, strength. He could not fight it, could not bend it. And in that moment he vanished from her life forever. Rose's hand found hers, and for the first time the Alpha King smiled fully. Not the ruler, not the shadowed warrior, but the man who had waited centuries to find a partner who could stand beside him. Alira looked up at him, feeling the warmth of his hand and the strength of the bond that connected them. She realized then that she was no longer broken. She was whole. She was not a victim of betrayal. She was a queen in her own right. The palace bells rang, calling the pack to witness the new dawn. The elders, the guards, the young wolves, all came to see. And they saw not a Luna who had been betrayed, but a Luna who had chosen her destiny. Rose raised his hand, and the mark glowed brightly one final time, sealing their bond in light that could not be broken. He spoke to the pack, voice carrying across the valley. "This Luna is not here by chance. She is here by choice, by courage, by strength. Let it be known the bond she holds is unbreakable. Let all who threaten it beware." The crowd bowed, awed and silent. They understood. This bond was not ordinary. It was more than loyalty, more than law. It was a force of nature as ancient as the mountains themselves. Alira squeezed Rose's hand. "We did it," she whispered. He smiled, leaning close, so close she could feel his breath. "No," he said softly. "You did it. I only stood beside you." The sun broke fully over Ashgar Vale, golden light flooding the courtyard. The storm of the past nights was gone. The palace stood strong. And so did they. For the first time, Alira felt truly free. She had faced betrayal, danger, curses, and shadow. She had survived. She had chosen herself, and in doing so had chosen a bond stronger than any curse. Rose led her to the balcony once more. The wind was warm now, carrying the scent of pine and rain. He turned to her, eyes golden and steady. "Together," he said. "Together," she echoed. And as the new day began, the Luna and the Alpha King stood side by side, unshakable, unbroken, and bound by choice. Not fate, not law, but the strength of their hearts. The palace hummed softly beneath them, alive with magic and light.